My name is Soraya Blake, and I'm 32 years old. What happened at my sister's wedding didn't just shock our family, it spread through the entire business community like wildfire. Picture this. Over 200 guests gathered inside a luxury ballroom. Crystal chandeliers glowing overhead. Champagne glasses clinking. And then my mother's hand slammed across my face so hard my diamond earring flew across the marble floor. The reason I refused to hand over the keys to my $2.3 million penthouse, right there in the middle of the wedding reception speeches. But here's what nobody saw coming. Exactly 1 hour later, when the CEO of one of the most powerful investment firms in the city walked through those doors, my mother's scream echoed loud enough to be heard floors above us. Because that man wasn't just any CEO. He owned nearly half of my father's company. And he had a very specific reaction to what he had just watched unfold. Live. That morning, I arrived at the Silvercrest Grand Hotel at exactly 8 a.m., 3 hours before the ceremony. The ballroom looked flawless. Ivory roses, gold-trimmed chairs, soft candlelight reflecting across polished marble floors. It was everything my sister Lila had dreamed of since we were children. And I had quietly wired $60,000 to help make it happen. Not that anyone would ever mention that. Soraya. Finally. My mother, Evelyn Blake, looked me up and down with thinly veiled disapproval. That dress. Couldn't you have chosen something softer? You look like you're heading into a boardroom, not your sister's wedding. I smoothed down my charcoal silk dress. Clean lines. Elegant. Professional. And yes, exactly something I would wear to a board meeting. Good morning to you too, Mom. Lila looks absolutely stunning, she continued, completely ignoring my greeting. A real bride. You should see how she glows. Of course she did. The comparison wasn't new. For 32 years I had been the wrong kind of daughter. Too ambitious, too independent, too inconvenient. Lila, on the other hand, she was everything my parents ever wanted. Sweet, gentle, traditional, perfect. Soraya, go check the seating chart, my father, Harold Blake, called from across the room. But don't start rearranging everything like you always do. I pressed my lips together. The seating plan was a disaster. Divorced couples placed side by side, business rivals sharing tables. But saying anything would just make me the problem again. So I stayed quiet. What they didn't know, what I had never told them, was that I wasn't just some mid-level employee drifting through life. I was the vice president of development at Blackridge Capital, leading our expansion across the Asia-Pacific region. Entire markets moved because of decisions I made. Deals worth tens of millions carried my signature. But in this family, that somehow translated into failure. Too career-driven, too independent, too far from the kind of daughter they always wished I would be. Of course, Dad, I said calmly, adjusting a crooked centerpiece. I'll make sure everything's perfect for Lila. Family comes first, Soraya, he said, stepping closer. You'll understand that when you finally settle down and have one of your own. The words were soft, but the meaning sharp enough to cut. Before I tell you everything that happened, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, but only if you really enjoy this story. And let me know, where are you watching from, what's the temperature where you live. I'd also like to point out that this story contains some fictional elements and uses AI for educational and emotional purposes. I hope you'll stay with me until the end. At 32, being unmarried had somehow become a bigger failure in my parents' eyes than anything I had ever achieved. Soraya, don't mind him, my Aunt Margaret said lightly, though there was amusement in her voice rather than sympathy. Not everyone can be as lucky as Lila finding love so early. I kept my focus on the centerpiece in front of me, adjusting a slightly crooked candle as if it required all my attention. Around me the whispers began. Still no ring on Soraya's finger. She's been in the city for years. You'd think she would have found someone by now. Poor Evelyn. At least Lila will give her grandchildren soon. From across the room, my cousin Ethan leaned against a table smirking. Hey, Soraya, maybe if you spent less time in boardrooms and more time in real life, you'd have a date today? Laughter rippled through the group. I felt the familiar sting, sharp but predictable. I could have told them about the men I'd dated this year. The ones who smiled at first, then slowly grew uncomfortable when they realized I earned more, knew more, moved faster than they did. I could have told them that being single wasn't a failure, it was a decision. But what would be the point? She's always been particular. My mother Evelyn explained to a cluster of guests nearby. Too picky for her own good. I straightened another centerpiece, my hand steady despite everything. They had no idea who I really was. And maybe that was better. So Soraya, my Aunt Clara, chimed in during the pre-ceremony, mingling her voice overly bright. How's that little apartment of yours in the city? Must be cozy. It's a penthouse, actually, I replied quietly. The group burst into laughter. Clara pressed a hand to her chest, wiping imaginary tears. A penthouse. Oh, Soraya. You and your imagination. She likes to exaggerate, Lila added smoothly as she approached in her wedding gown, glowing under the soft lights. Last year she said she was buying a Tesla. Can you imagine? I had bought one. It was parked outside. But I just smiled. Soraya's always been ambitious, my mother said, using the word like it was something to be corrected. A little too ambitious if you ask me. There's nothing wrong with a modest place, my Uncle Victor added with a patronizing nod. Not everyone needs luxury. No shame in that. My phone buzzed softly in my hand. A message from my building concierge. Delivery confirmed for tomorrow morning. Penthouse unit 4,500 square feet, 45th floor. I glanced at the screen for half a second. The penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A full view of the skyline. Paid in cash after closing one of the biggest deals of my career. I could have shown them the photos. Could have pulled up the feature article from a major design magazine. Could have proven everything. But what would that really mean? That I needed their approval? You're right, Uncle Victor, I said calmly, slipping my phone back into my clutch. There's no shame in living within your means. Lila let out a soft musical laugh. See, Soraya's finally learning to be realistic. The irony was almost poetic. I stepped away from the group and moved toward the tall windows lining the ballroom. Outside, the city stretched endlessly into the distance, and somewhere among those towers, mine stood higher than most. 10 years. That's how long it had taken me to build everything from nothing. 10 years. That was how long it had taken me to climb from an entry-level analyst to vice president. 10 years of 80-hour work weeks, overnight flights across continents, and deals that made headlines in global financial circles. That penthouse wasn't just a place to live, it was proof. Proof that the girl they dismissed had built something real. Proof that I didn't need their approval, their money, or their connections to succeed. Every square foot had been paid for with my own effort. And if I handed it over to Lila like it was nothing, what would that make me? The backup plan. The family safety net. The family. The one who existed only to make sure their golden child never had to struggle. I thought about the nights I had fallen asleep at my desk, still in my heels, surrounded by documents that would eventually turn into multi-million-dollar deals. The promotions I had earned while they were busy planning Lila's engagement parties. The respect I commanded in boardrooms across 3 continents. None of that existed here. To them, I was still just Soraya. Too ambitious. Too career-focused. Too difficult. And if I gave in now, if I let them take the one thing that represented everything I had built, I would be confirming exactly who they believed I was. My phone lit up in my hand. A message from my assistant. It was a photo taken that morning. The view from my penthouse. The sun rising over the city, golden light pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Your sanctuary is waiting for you, boss. Sanctuary. That word settled deep inside me, because that's exactly what it was. The one place where I wasn't the disappointing daughter, the overlooked sister. Just Soraya Blake, a woman who had built something extraordinary on her own. And I couldn't give that up. Not even to keep the peace. Across the ballroom, my mother's voice carried clearly over the soft music. Our Lila is everything a mother could wish for. So graceful, so kind. She even volunteers at the children's hospital. She's going to be such an incredible wife. Guests murmured in admiration. My mother stood there glowing, listing every achievement Lila had ever made. Her degree, her engagement, her charity work. My name never came up once. 3 months ago, I had quietly transferred $60,000 to help pay for this wedding when my father mentioned the budget was getting tight. I had used my connections to get Lila featured in one of the city's most prestigious bridal magazines. I had even arranged an upgrade for their honeymoon suite using my own rewards points. Invisible. That was what I was. The family ghost who only appeared when something was needed. Such a beautiful family, someone said warmly. You must be so proud of your daughter. Oh, we are, my father replied, wrapping an arm around my mother. Lila has made us so happy. Daughter. Singular. As if I didn't exist. I turned away before the tightness in my chest could show on my face, and then I heard it. My father's voice lowered, but not enough. After the toast, he murmured to my mother, "We'll make the announcement about the penthouse." My breath caught. "You're sure Soraya will agree?" my mother whispered. "She won't have a choice," he replied calmly. "Not in front of everyone. She's too proud to cause a scene at her sister's wedding." A cold chill spread through me. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't generosity. This was planned. A setup designed to trap me in front of hundreds of witnesses. And honestly, my mother added, her voice edged with casual cruelty. What does she even need a penthouse for? It's not like she has a family to fill it. The words hit harder than anything they'd said all morning. But instead of breaking me, they clarified something. Completely. I wasn't walking into a celebration. I was walking into an ambush. I wasn't going to play their game. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, like your achievements only matter when they fit someone else's expectations, then you understand exactly where I was standing in that moment. I see you. And your success matters even when they pretend it doesn't. What happened next was the moment everything shifted. The moment private family dynamics turned into public humiliation. If you believe in setting boundaries and choosing self-respect over approval, make sure you stay with me. And tell me where you're watching from. I always find it incredible how many people recognize this kind of story. The reception was already in full swing when my father suddenly stood up. He tapped his champagne glass with a spoon. The sharp, clear sound cut through the music. The band stopped playing. Conversations died mid-sentence. 200 guests turned toward him. Before we continue celebrating, my father began, his voice amplified through the microphone. Evelyn and I would like to give Lila and her husband Daniel something special. My stomach dropped. They were really doing it. As you all know, he continued with a proud smile. Family means everything to us. He said family, but his gaze never left Lila. And there's nothing we wouldn't do for our children's happiness. Children. Plural. But everyone in that room knew exactly who he meant. That's why we're thrilled to announce. He paused for effect. That Soraya has generously agreed to gift her city penthouse to Lila and Daniel as a wedding present. The room exploded into applause. Lila pressed her hands to her chest, her expression perfectly crafted into shock and gratitude. But I saw it. That small, satisfied smile she couldn't quite hide. She had known. Of course she had. Daniel pulled her closer, grinning like he had just won something he didn't earn. "Oh my God," Soraya Leela said into the microphone, her voice trembling just enough to sound convincing. "Are you serious? Your penthouse?" Every single head in the room turned toward me. I stood there frozen, a champagne glass still in my hand. They had orchestrated everything. The announcement, the timing, Lila's reaction, the audience. All of it designed to trap me. "Soraya, come up here," my father called, gesturing for me to join them. "Let's have the whole family together for this moment." The applause kept going. People were smiling, nodding. Some even looked emotional. At table 12, I spotted the wife of one of my company's board members. At table 8, three of my largest clients. My entire professional world was scattered throughout that room, watching, waiting, expecting me to smile and play my role. This wasn't just pressure. This was calculated. A public execution of my independence. I placed my champagne glass down carefully on the table. Then I stood, slowly. The room began to quiet. "I'm sorry," what I said, my voice clear enough to carry across the ballroom without a microphone. My father's smile flickered. "Your penthouse sweetheart," he said, his tone tightening. "For Lila and Daniel." "That was never discussed with me," I replied calmly. A wave of whispers spread instantly. I could feel the shift, the confusion, the tension. My father's expression hardened. "Don't be selfish on your sister's wedding day," he said into the microphone, making sure every person in that room heard him. "Dad," I said evenly, "this is inappropriate. We can talk about this privately. There's nothing to discuss." Before I could respond, my mother stepped forward and took the microphone from him. "This is a gift from the family," she announced, her voice sharp and controlled. "It's my property," I said calmly. "And I haven't agreed to anything." The whispers grew louder, spreading through the room like a ripple. How could she, on her sister's wedding day? So selfish. Lila's eyes filled with tears right on cue. "Soraya, I thought you'd want me to be happy." "Your happiness doesn't require my home, Lila. It's just a property," my father cut in sharply. "You can buy another one? Then you should buy her one," I replied without raising my voice. The reaction was immediate. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. Someone near the front actually covered her mouth in shock. The photographer's camera started clicking faster, capturing every second. "Please," Soraya Daniel stepped forward, trying to sound reasonable. "We'd take great care of it." "I'm sure you would," I said. "But the penthouse is not available." My mother's face flushed deep red. My father looked like he might collapse from the pressure building around him. And Lila, the softness in her expression began to crack. Something sharper showed underneath. "Come on, Soraya," my Aunt Clara called out. "It's family." "You don't even have a family to fill that place," my Uncle Victor added. "Lila needs it more. She's starting a life," someone else chimed in. "What do you need all that space for?" The pressure came from every direction, each voice stacking on top of the other, each word pushing harder. "Be reasonable," my cousin Ethan shouted. "Stop making this difficult." "It's not like you can't afford another one," Aunt Margaret added, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "With your important career?" They still didn't believe me, even now. To them, the penthouse was still just a fantasy I had exaggerated. "That's generous of you to assume," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But my finances are not up for public discussion." "Everything is always about money with you," my mother snapped into the microphone. "Your sister's happiness should matter more than property." "If Lila's happiness depends on taking what's mine," I replied, "then maybe we should question that." Another wave of shocked reactions swept through the room. Somewhere in the back, someone actually booed. The photographer kept shooting, the flash going off again and again like lightning. Through all of it, I didn't move. My hands stayed at my sides. No shaking. No tears. I had faced boardrooms filled with executives who would tear apart anyone who showed weakness. I had negotiated deals worth millions under pressure far greater than this. I wasn't going to break here. Not for them. "The penthouse is not available," I said again, each word deliberate. Final. My phone vibrated in my clutch over and over. I pulled it out, needing a second to breathe. 3 missed calls. 1 message. Saw the live stream. On standby. My eyes lifted instinctively. And then I saw it. At table 6, Daniel's younger brother had his phone propped up, angled perfectly toward the stage. The entire scene was being broadcast live. The small red icon blinked steadily. How many people were watching this unfold right now? Another message came through. Your call. Say the word. I stared at the screen for a second. Marcus Chen, my mentor, my CEO, and the man who quietly owned 40% of my father's company. A fact my father had never once connected. Not with me standing right in front of him. We had kept that information separate for a reason. For a moment, exactly like this. Soraya, put your phone away, my mother snapped sharply. This is family time. Apparently it's also public entertainment, I replied, glancing toward table 6. Your son-in-law's family is live streaming this to the internet. Daniel's younger brother fumbled quickly, grabbing his phone. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. Who knew how many people had already seen my parents trying to publicly force me into giving up my home? I typed quickly. Wait for my signal. Then I slipped my phone back into my clutch. So dramatic, Lila sighed into the microphone, her voice trembling just enough to win sympathy. All of this, over a piece of property. She placed a hand over her hard eyes, glistening. I thought my sister loved me enough to help me start my marriage the right way. The crowd softened instantly. Poor Lila. Rejected. Humiliated. By her cold, selfish sister. But while they were watching her, I was watching my father. He kept checking his phone. Again. And again. With each glance, the color drained further from his face. The live stream had consequences he hadn't anticipated. Your wedding is trending, by the way, I said quietly to Lila. Congratulations. She blinked at me, confused for a split second. Standing there, surrounded by judgment, something else surfaced in my mind. A memory from 6 months ago. Marcus sitting across from me, reviewing the contract for my penthouse. You'll want this clause, he had said, tapping the page. I had barely paid attention at the time. Protection against third-party interference, he continued. Especially coercion from family. I had laughed it off. My family was difficult. Not dangerous. But Marcus had built an empire from nothing. He understood people in ways I didn't. If anyone tries to force you to transfer ownership under pressure, he had explained, this clause activates. The company steps in. We protect both the asset and you. Clause 15.3. I remembered it clearly now. The penthouse had technically originated as a corporate asset transferred to me as part of my executive compensation. Everything about it was airtight, legitimate, documented, and that clause gave Blackridge Capital full legal authority to intervene if anyone tried to take it from me under coercion. It wasn't just about property. It was about protection. Marcus had seen this before. Successful women pressured into giving up everything to families who believed they were entitled to it. Soraya has always been stubborn, my father said loudly, trying to regain control of the room. But she knows family comes first. Family doesn't ambush each other, I said. Quietly, but clearly enough that every single person heard it. The room went still. Even the servers had stopped moving, trays frozen mid-air. I thought about the documents sitting in Marcus's office, the ownership records, the shareholder structures, the details my father had never questioned deeply enough. The truth that would shatter everything he thought he understood. That his daughter wasn't just successful. She was tied directly to the power he had been chasing for years. And then, my mother moved. She stepped down from the head table like a storm breaking loose. Her gown shimmered under the lights as she crossed the dance floor, microphone still clutched tightly in her hand. Her knuckles were white, her expression no longer controlled. Soraya Blake. Her voice exploded through the speakers. You will not ruin this day. You will not embarrass this family. I'm not the one creating a scene, Mother. We raised you better than this. She was only a few feet away now, close enough for me to see the vein pulsing at her temple. We gave you everything. You gave Lila everything. I corrected quietly. I earned what I have. You ungrateful. She stopped herself, remembering the audience. Then her expression shifted, forcing a sweetness that convinced no one. Sweetheart, she said, her voice suddenly soft. Just give your sister the keys. It's such a small thing. No. The word hung in the air between us. Sharp. Unmovable. Her face changed instantly. Disbelief. Then anger. Then something deeper. Humiliation. The entire ballroom seemed to hold its breath. You're really going to do this? She hissed, lowering the microphone for just a second. Don't push me. Or what, I asked, genuinely curious. What exactly did she think she could threaten me with now? She raised the microphone again, her voice rising. Everyone, she announced, it seems my daughter has forgotten what family means. She turned slightly toward the crowd. Perhaps you can remind her. A murmur moved through the room. Some voices called out in support of Lila. Others had gone completely silent. Even they could feel it. Something had crossed a line. Give your sister the keys, my mother said again, her voice dropping into a dangerous whisper that still carried through the microphone. Now. No. Her restraint shattered. You selfish, ungrateful girl, the words tore out of her. After everything we've done for you, everything we've sacrificed, you can't do this one thing. You are a disgrace to this family. She stepped even closer. I could smell her perfume. That same heavy floral scent that had filled my childhood home. And beneath it, years of resentment burning in her eyes. Then it happened. Without warning. Her hand struck my face with full force. The sound cracked through the ballroom, amplified by the microphone still in her hand. My head snapped to the side. For a split second, everything slowed. I felt the sharp sting spread across my cheek. And then something small and bright flew through the air. My diamond earring. A gift I had bought for myself after closing the Singapore deal. It spun once under the chandelier lights and hit the marble floor with a soft, clear sound. 200 people gasped at the same time. Then silence. Absolute silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. The kind where every heartbeat sounds too loud. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stood there, my cheek burning, the heat spreading slowly across my skin. The photographer had stopped shooting. The staff stood frozen in place. No one knew what to do next. Even the children at the far tables had gone completely silent. My mother's hand remained suspended in the air, as if even she couldn't fully process what she had just done. The microphone in her other hand picked up the uneven rhythm of her breathing. In the mirrored walls surrounding the ballroom, I could see everything at once. My cheek already flushing red. My mother's face caught between shock and defiance. My father halfway out of his chair. Lila standing frozen, her hands pressed to her mouth. Her expression hovering somewhere between performance and something more real. And Daniel's brother. His phone was raised again. Still recording. The earring lay on the marble floor, catching the light from the chandelier. A small thing. Insignificant, really. And yet, in that moment, it felt like the only thing that mattered. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even lift a hand to my face. I let the silence stretch. Let it settle over the room. Let it say everything I didn't need to. Then slowly, I walked forward. Each step echoed through the ballroom, the sound of my heels sharp against the marble. Deliberate. Measured. Controlled. I reached the spot where the earring had fallen and bent down, picked it up, and placed it back in my ear. The entire action couldn't have taken more than 30 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. I straightened, smoothed the fabric of my dress and looked directly at my mother. Her hand had dropped, but she still gripped the microphone, her expression shifting, something new, breaking through the anger, something closer to realization. "Excuse me," I said calmly. My voice didn't shake. Then I turned toward the head table. "Congratulations, Lila," I said. "I hope your marriage brings you everything you deserve." I picked up my clutch and walked away. Not hurried, not emotional, just steady. The same way I walked out of boardrooms after closing deals. "Soraya," my father called after me. "Soraya, wait." I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. Behind me, the silence shattered. Voices rose, chairs scraped. Someone started crying. But I kept walking. The moment I stepped outside the ballroom doors, I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. He answered on the first ring. "Soraya." "Green light," I said. There was no hesitation on his end. "Understood. How long do I have?" "Give me 45 minutes to get home." A pause. "Are you okay?" I touched my cheek, still warm, still stinging. "Execute the contingency." His tone shifted instantly, all business. Already mobilizing the legal team. "Soraya," he added more quietly. I meant, "Are you hurt?" "Nothing that won't heal," I replied as I stepped into the elevator. Then I added, "Bring the shareholder agreement." The one my father never actually read. A small pause. Then Marcus chuckled softly. "With pleasure." The call ended just as the elevator doors closed, sealing me away from the chaos I had just left behind. That moment. The slap heard by 200 people. Did it make your blood boil? Because I know what it feels like to be humiliated by the very people who are supposed to protect you. But here's the truth. The best response isn't always anger. Sometimes, it's strategy. What came next proved exactly why you should never underestimate someone you've pushed too far. If you believe in standing up for yourself, make sure you like this video. And if you've ever had to set a boundary with family, type boundaries in the comments. Because the next part? That's where everything changes. 45 minutes later, I was standing in my penthouse, an ice pack pressed gently against my cheek, when my phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. "Entering the building now." That was Marcus's message when I stepped out of the car. By the time I reached my penthouse, I had already changed into jeans and a soft sweater. The armor I wore in that ballroom was no longer necessary. The battle had already been decided. They just didn't know it yet. My phone lit up nonstop with notifications. The live stream had exploded. Over 500 shares in less than an hour. Clips of the slap were already circulating, turned into short looping videos. But I didn't care about any of that. I cared about what was happening inside that ballroom. Another message from Marcus, walking in. "Harold just saw me." I could picture it perfectly. Marcus Chen stepping through those doors in a perfectly tailored suit, calm, controlled, impossible to ignore. 2 lawyers behind him carrying briefcases, the same Marcus Chen whose name appeared in every major business publication. The same man my father had spent the last 6 months desperately trying to get a meeting with. Another message came in. His face just went white. "Your mother is screaming." I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the city. Somewhere down there, inside that grand ballroom, everything was shifting. Consequences had arrived. My phone rang. "Unknown number." I answered. "Soraya," a voice whispered urgently. It was Daniel's younger brother. "You need to see this. Your dad looks like he's about to pass out." Some guy in a suit just walked in, said your name, and started talking about partnership agreements. Your mom literally screamed when she saw him. "Who is that guy?" "Someone who protects his investments," I said calmly. "Your dad keeps saying Mr. Chen over and over." "Wait. Is this the Chen?" "The one who owns I Have to Go," I said, ending the call. The city lights flickered below, calm and indifferent. But inside that ballroom, everything my family thought they controlled was unraveling. My phone rang again. Marcus. You're on speaker, he said. I'm here with your parents and their guests. I could hear it. The silence in the background. Heavy. Tense. Waiting. Then Marcus spoke, his voice carrying that quiet authority that made entire rooms listen. Harold, he said, I think it's important to clarify something for everyone present. A pause. Soraya Blake is not just an employee at my company. She is our vice president of development overseeing our entire Asia-Pacific expansion. The reaction was immediate. Even through the phone I could hear it. Gasps, confusion, disbelief. That's not possible. My father's voice came through strained and uncertain. The Singapore deal that generated $40 million in revenue, Marcus continued. Soraya led that. Silence. The Tokyo branch, now our most profitable division. She built that from the ground up. More murmurs. The partnership your company has been trying to secure for over a year. Soraya negotiated every term. You're lying. My mother's voice cut in sharp and desperate. No, Mrs. Blake. Marcus replied calmly, your daughter is one of the most valuable executives in this city. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The penthouse you attempted to take from her, he continued, was part of her executive compensation package. A package that includes specific legal protections. What protections? My father asked, his voice unsteady. The kind that activate when someone attempts to coerce her into surrendering corporate assets, Marcus said. Which, according to the live stream currently circulating online, is exactly what happened here tonight. A pause. That live stream has already reached over 20,000 viewers. I could hear movement. Papers shifting. People reacting. And furthermore, Marcus continued, as someone who owns 40% of your company, Harold, I find tonight's behavior deeply concerning. Silence fell again. Attempting to publicly take assets from your own daughter, allowing physical assault to occur in front of hundreds of witnesses. His tone sharpened slightly. That raises serious concerns about your leadership. You can't do this, my father said, his voice breaking. This is family business. The moment you made it public, Marcus replied, it became my business. A brief pause. Then his voice softened slightly. Soraya. Are you still there? I'm here, I said. Would you like to press charges for assault? The silence that followed was even heavier than before. Then Marcus spoke again. Let me make something very clear. The footage shows both assault and attempted coercion. This activates Clause 15.3 of our shareholder agreement. My father's breathing became audible through the phone. What are you talking about? Page 47, Marcus said. The clause regarding conduct that compromises leadership integrity. I could hear papers being unfolded. Shuffled. Under that clause, I have the authority to call an emergency board meeting within 24 hours. Another pause. And considering I control 40%, he added, and the Jensen Trust controls another 15%. I suggest you do the math. I could hear papers being placed down on the head table through the phone. Marcus was laying everything out in front of them. This is extortion. My mother's voice shrieked, sharp and panicked. No, Mrs. Blake, Marcus replied calmly. Extortion was demanding your daughter's property in front of 200 witnesses. This is consequence management. Soraya. My father's voice came through different now. Softer. Desperate. Tell him to stop. This is going too far. Too far. I said, my voice steady. Like slapping your daughter in front of an entire ballroom wasn't too far. You can't destroy our company over this. I'm not destroying anything, I replied. I'm protecting what's mine. My assets. My dignity. Marcus is protecting his investment. If your actions put that at risk, that's your responsibility. Voices murmured in the background. The video is everywhere. It's on Twitter. Facebook. Local news just picked it up. Then Marcus spoke again, clear and controlled. Here's what's going to happen. The room fell silent. Harold, you have 48 hours to issue a public apology to Soraya. A real one, not a statement written by your PR team. A pause. You will acknowledge her professional achievements and her legal ownership of the penthouse. Another pause. Evelyn, you will do the same. And you will have no further direct contact with Soraya. Or what my mother demanded, her voice rising again. Or I exercise my rights as a major shareholder, Marcus said. Your company requires my capital for its expansion. Without it, you're looking at insolvency within 6 months. This is my daughter's wedding, my mother cried. You can't do this here. You're right, Marcus said smoothly. This isn't the time or place. A brief silence. That's why I'm giving you 48 hours to fix it. He continued, his tone leaving no room for argument. Soraya's penthouse remains hers. Untouched. Uncontested. Any further attempt to pressure or manipulate her will result in immediate legal action. She's our daughter, my father said weakly. Then treat her like one, Marcus replied sharply. Not like a resource you can take from whenever it suits you. In the background, I heard Lila begin to cry. This is supposed to be my special day. It still is, Marcus said. What happens next is up to your parents. There was movement, chairs shifting, low voices. Then Lila's voice came through again, trembling. Soraya, how could you do this to me? I didn't do anything to you, I said. I refuse to give you my home. Everything else that happened tonight. The announcement, the pressure, the slap. That was Mom and Dad. I paused. The penthouse is mine. I earned it. I paid for it. If you want one, you can earn it too. You're so cruel. No, I said quietly. I'm just done being the one who sacrifices everything. More movement, more voices. Then Marcus came back on the line, closer this time. Soraya, the documents have been delivered. Your parents understand their options. Thank you, Marcus. I'm sorry it came to this. So am I. A brief pause. The photographer captured everything, he added. We already have high-resolution copies in case they're needed. Through the phone, I heard my father let out a low, broken sound. 48 hours, Harold Marcus said one final time. Public apology or I call the board. Then quieter, Soraya. I'll see you Monday. The call ended. I stood there in my penthouse staring out over the city. For the first time that day, I could breathe. My cheek still burned. But something else had lifted. A weight I hadn't even realized I had been carrying for 32 years. Within 2 hours, my phone was overwhelmed with messages. The video had spread far beyond that ballroom. It was everywhere. Headlines were already forming. Entitled parents demand daughter's multi-million-dollar penthouse at wedding. Trending. Across multiple platforms. Lila called me 15 times. I didn't answer. My phone kept lighting up with her name over and over again until eventually it stopped. Then came my mother's message. You've ruined everything. Your sister's wedding is destroyed. Guests are leaving. Are you happy now? My father's text came next. We need to talk. Please. But the most interesting messages didn't come from them. They came from his clients. 3 of the biggest ones. Harold. I'm concerned about what I just witnessed. We need to discuss our contract. James Carter Industries. This behavior is deeply troubling. My wife insists we reconsider our partnership. Daniel Park Electronics. I don't do business with people who hit their own children. Contract terminated. Laura Bennett Logistics. That last one alone was worth millions annually. Gone. Just like that. Daniel's family group chat, which I had been added to months earlier, was in complete chaos. His mother had written, "We're leaving. This is unacceptable." His father followed with, "The wedding is on hold until we understand what kind of family we are dealing with." The wedding was collapsing, and I wasn't even there. Marcus texted me privately. Your father just called. He's panicking. 3 more clients are reconsidering. Then another message came in from someone who had been at the ballroom. Your mom fainted when she realized who Marcus is. Completely passed out. They had to call paramedics. I poured myself a glass of wine, a bottle I had been saving. If standing up for myself didn't count as a special occasion, I didn't know what did. Another message came through. My assistant. Boss, you're trending. Also, 5 recruiters have already reached out asking if you're open to new opportunities. Apparently, standing up to toxic family is trending right now. I laughed. Actually laughed. For the first time in days, by Monday morning the business world had already chosen a side. And it wasn't even close. The video had spread through every major network, every conversation, every boardroom. The story was clear. A successful woman refused to be bullied by her own family. And a CEO stepped in to protect his top executive. My father's company lost 6 contracts in total. The expansion project he had been planning for 2 years collapsed overnight. Without Marcus's capital and with clients pulling out, downsizing became inevitable. Lila's honeymoon to Bali was cancelled. Not by her, by Daniel's family. They wanted to reassess the relationship before moving forward. Wedding gifts started being returned, piece by piece. But the biggest surprise came from my own company. Marcus called me into his office that Monday afternoon. The board has made a decision, he said without preamble. We're promoting you. Senior Vice President of Global Operations. I blinked. I got slapped at a wedding, I said. And you didn't fold, he replied. You held your ground under pressure. You protected company assets. You maintained control in a situation where most people would have broken. He leaned back slightly. That's leadership. He paused. I've seen executives with decades of experience crumble when family gets involved. You didn't just survive it, you won. The promotion came with a significant increase in stock options, enough to buy another penthouse if I wanted. But I didn't. The one I had was enough. It represented everything I had built on my own, without them. I donated the bonus from that promotion to a women's shelter. A place that helped people leave situations they shouldn't have had to endure in the first place. It felt right. My father's public apology came exactly 47 hours after Marcus gave his ultimatum. It was stiff, carefully worded, clearly written by lawyers. I apologized to my daughter Soraya for my inappropriate behavior at a recent family event. I acknowledge her professional achievements and her legal right to her property. This matter is now closed. My mother refused to apologize. Instead, she went on a social media rant, calling me ungrateful, selfish, claiming I had been corrupted by corporate influence. Screenshots of her posts spread just as fast as the original video. Most of the comments said the same thing. Now we see where the problem started. The comments didn't hold back. Narcissistic mother spotted. A week later, Lila finally texted me. You ruined my life. Daniel's family is forcing us into counseling before they'll even consider moving forward with the marriage. They think my family is toxic. They're not wrong, I replied. I hate you. I stared at the message for a second before typing back. I know. After that, the extended family split almost exactly how you'd expect. Some took my parents' side, insisting that family should always come first no matter what. Others reached out quietly, privately, sharing their own stories about being overlooked, used, never enough. Ethan messaged me. I'm sorry for what I said that day. I didn't realize how bad it really was. Aunt Margaret wrote. Your mother is my sister, but she was wrong. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. But the message that surprised me the most came from Daniel. I had no idea about the penthouse plan. If I had, I would have stopped it. Lila needs to grow up. Maybe this is the wake-up call she needed. And I'm sorry about your mom hitting you. That was assault. No excuses. At least someone in that situation had clarity. The next day, I changed the locks on my penthouse. Security was updated with a list of names permanently banned from entering. My parents were at the top. The doorman who had known me for years pulled me aside quietly. "I saw the video, Miss Blake," he said. "You did the right thing. My daughter went through something similar. Family isn't always what we think it is." I nodded, because I understood that now. I blocked my immediate family on every platform. No announcement, no explanation, just silence. A clean break. Then I focused on work. The promotion meant overseeing teams across 12 countries. Long days, constant travel, high stakes. But for the first time, there was no weight pulling me backward. Marcus became more than just my boss. He became something I had never really had before. A mentor. One morning over coffee, he said something that stayed with me. "The best revenge," he said, "is building a life so good, they're no longer part of it." 3 months later, I received a message from an unknown number. It was a photo. The gift I had sent Lila after everything settled. A certificate for 6 months of family therapy. "This is insulting," the message read. "It's necessary," I replied. Then I blocked that number too. My penthouse became what it was always meant to be, a sanctuary. A place where no one could demand anything from me, where no one could diminish me. Every morning the sunlight poured through the windows stretching across the city skyline. A reminder that everything I had built was mine. 6 months later, everything had settled into something new, something real. I was thriving. The senior vice president role opened doors I hadn't even imagined before. I was featured in a major business publication's 40 Under 40. The article didn't mention the wedding. It didn't need to. It focused on my work, my strategies, the impact I was making across global markets. My father's company stabilized eventually, but it never returned to what it had been. Some losses don't recover. They reshape everything. In just 6 months, my father had aged 10 years. That's what people said, at least. Through business contacts, I heard he had started therapy. Too late to fix what had already been broken, but maybe enough to make him understand it. My mother didn't change. If anything, she leaned harder into her version of the story, telling anyone who would listen about her ungrateful daughter who chose money over family. But most people had seen the video. They knew the truth. Lila's marriage lasted 4 months. That was it. The counseling Daniel's family insisted on uncovered everything that had always been there. Entitlement, avoidance of responsibility, the expectation that someone else would always provide. The divorce was quiet. Final. She texted me once. "I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted." I read it once before replying. I got what I earned. There's a difference. After that, there was nothing left to say. The family I found at Blackridge Capital became something I never thought I would have. A real support system. We celebrated each other's wins. We showed up during setbacks. And no one ever expected me to shrink so they could feel comfortable. Marcus and his wife started inviting me to their family dinners. Their daughters, both in college, would ask me questions about my career, about my decisions. One night, the older one said something that stayed with me. "You're proof we don't have to make ourselves smaller for anyone." And she was right. That was worth more than anything my family had ever withheld. I didn't lose everything that day. I finally understood what was worth keeping. Standing there, I realized love without respect isn't something you protect. It's something you outgrow. What would you have done if your own family asked you to give up everything you built? Would you stay silent? Or choose yourself? If you've listened this far, I'm truly grateful you didn't just hear a story, you felt it. And maybe somewhere, it helped you see your own situation more clearly. If this message resonates with you, your action matters more than you think. One subscribe from you helps stories like this reach someone who feels alone. One like or share could be the moment that helps someone finally set a boundary. If you believe choosing yourself is not selfish but necessary, stand with me and help this message reach the right people.